Welcome to the Scaleup Valley podcast, where we bring the best of the best to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today's guest is a very special one. His name is Peter Pick, the MD Head of Sales at IMI Hydronic Engineering, Netherlands. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Happy to be here.
So as you know, this is a special episode, which is part of the season Breakthrough Engineering that we have with our partner, IMI Hydronic Engineering. We had the Divisional Managing Director, Phil, in our first episode of the season, and we are very happy to have Peter today. Peter, let us know for the ones who are not able to listen to the previous episodes a little bit more about IMI, and first about yourself, of course, and what is your role at IMI.
Okay, then let's start to introduce myself. As you said, my name is Peter Peek. I'm working since December 2018 in this responsibility for IMI Netherlands. IMI is a global company. We are present all over the world. We are producing hydronic appliances for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning installations in residential and domestic buildings, new build and renovation. I'm responsible for the Dutch market, which is quite a challenging market, of course, but also very interesting. So I'm happy to be part of this global company of IMI. So what about myself? I'm 62 years old. I have my experience, my background all my life in this market. Not predominantly at the manufacturer side, but predominantly at the wholesale side. And so in trade, which is also a very interesting part of our business, and very important part of our supply chain also. Without wholesale, we couldn't deliver our products everywhere at every installer. And that's where my experience is, and also in different countries of Europe. I had the opportunity to have experiences with other cultures, other business cultures. So that's what formed me. Yeah.
Right. And today, what is your focus at IMI Hydronic Engineering? So you are also part of the leadership team, correct? There. So what is your responsibility? Your main responsibility?
My main responsibility is Netherlands. So I'm managing director for the Netherlands, for the Dutch enterprise. And of course, my main responsibility is to deliver profitable growth for IMI in the Netherlands.
Got it. Yeah. Perfect. That's great. Thanks for the introduction, and congrats on your experience. For the ones who want to visit your page on LinkedIn, you can see all the roles that you have played over the years, and how you stay enthusiastic for the new challenges that you keep embracing with IMI today. So let's discuss the 3 critical ingredients to scale a company. As you know, we are completely obsessed about scale, and we discuss, that's why we say in the beginning, from 1 million to 1 trillion, the typical scale up that is scaling from 1 million to 100 million, but also what I like to call corporate scale. So it's not only an issue with scale ups, it's also an issue for corporates. How are you able to go from 1 to 5B, from 5 to 10, from 10 to 20B, from 20B to 100B, or even getting to the size of an Amazon or Walmart, the 250B plus revenues. So which is really, for the ones who have this kind of challenges, it is a huge challenge to think how to scale at that size. So we always discuss radical focus, world-class team, and culture of execution in the show. Let's start with radical focus and start with the reflection that I was making now. So how are you able to think about how to scale, in your case, your market, and to contribute to the growth of a large organization that is now almost at 2 billion in revenues, right?
Well, I think that the thing that first comes into my mind, and also which I experience, you do business with people. So it's all about people. And of course, people need a purpose to give their commitment to that purpose. And I think that you have to have a very clear goal to achieve, to go for, and then commit the people in your organization to that goal, and have them motivated also by by empowering them and giving them responsibilities, of course, to add value to that goal, and also keep as close as you can to the customer. So and and I know this from my from my daily practice. It's the higher you get, let's say, in an organization, it's very hard to stay close to the customer, to keep contact with your market, because it's so important to keep that contact. And I think these are the prerequisites for growth.
It is, and especially when a company is growing and scaling, it's in a process of constant change, which means that everything is in crisis inside of the organization. And as leaders, we tend to focus, as you said, in solving that internal crisis, and we forget that we are creating that internal crisis to serve the external environment. And if we lose focus on the customer, sooner or later we are dead.
Yeah, it's there's a saying: if you do what you did, you get what you got. A friend of mine told me that once, and it's so true. And I mean, I'm in this business for 40 years now, and I always found it interesting because not only the environment is changing, product innovation is going very fast, but also your organization is changing all the time, because you try to adapt as fast as you can to the changing environment, to the changing demands. And you try to understand, at least I try to understand, what the customer would ask us in 3 to 5 years. And you always you try to think ahead. What will they demand from us in 3 to 5 years? What would I like myself in 3 to 5 years if I'm a consumer? And then prepare your company to go there. And also, this is, of course, the purpose and the goal you have. I mean, it's not just growth. I mean, why? Because everybody wants to grow, but there's, of course, you need to add value and to be profitable, and that's very important. And of course, what's very important is the culture in the organization. If people like to work for an organization and they're happy, the customer sense this also. And people, I think you should facilitate people also as much as you can to develop themselves within an organization, and not be afraid that if they develop, they probably sometime, you hope you can keep them, but there's also always a chance they will leave. But if you can give them this experience, I think that's very important. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's an amazing point. And I always remember the interview that I did with Eric Yu and the CEO of Zoom. And it's always talking about delivering happiness to employees and customers. So it kind of summarizes as tracking NPS and employee NPS. So would my customers and my employees recommend to their peers to work with us? If it is a strong yes, we are in a very good shape and growing. And I agree with you. It's especially the corporate side, the metrics are a little bit different in the present. So we need to be able to invest in the future, but still be able to show profitability and strong cash flow position today instead of just growth. It's a good thing to discuss also here on the show. Also because IMI is a listed company, so which means there is a strong responsibility and a stronger scrutiny in a daily basis that some of the majority of the private scale-ups don't have, right? So, and maybe this is a good point. I think there are a lot of discussions about, sometimes we discuss the kind of the scale-up or the corporate, and sometimes even the SMEs and the corporate. And I like to see that as an ecosystem, and corporates are really important because they have an ecosystem of players and of companies working with them to serve the customer. And I think that we are discussing that there is a strong quote that I like a lot, that I don't remember who is the owner, and thanks for that owner, which is scale-ups invent the future, corporates scale it. It kind of summarizes the way that corporates and scale-ups can leverage the strengths of each other. So what has been your experience working with scale-ups to serve the customer, your customers, of course?
Well, I don't have that much experience with scale-ups, but I think what is the advantage of being a scale-up is that as a scale-up, and you have a good product, or you invented a product, or you have a good opportunity solution for demand in the market. As a scale-up, you don't have too much to lose, and you have to invest in a company, and that's the big risk. And what from my experience is that in order to grow, you need existing business channels and existing, of course, financial resources, or you need financial resources to grow. And that's where you come into cooperation with corporate companies, where you can share and then multiply, of course, what you are doing. And I think that's the most difficult thing, because it needs also trust in each other. If you're going to share something, you need to trust each other that you also are going to benefit from that together. And of course, corporate, you engage with, and especially if you have a corporate like a PLC, you engage, of course, with a lot of rules and legislations and compliance things and that kind of things, which scale-ups necessarily do not have yet. So, yeah, two different cultures also.
This is a very good point, and I was having a discussion yesterday on, as corporates, how can we help scale-ups to have an amazing experience working with us. So the same kind of philosophy that we have towards our customers, kind of having also towards our partners and providers, right? So how can we adapt in a way that it would be so easy for a scale-up to work with us, and at the same time for the scale-ups also doing the same effort when we are with that ad? I think that it's a very common knowledge, let's say, but it's not very common practice.
No, yeah. And that, I was also thinking about, I mean, you don't want to invent the wheel again and again and again. And I believe really in sharing and multiplying, and that it's also a kind of a sustainable, let's say, sustainable motivation for that. I mean, if you work together, you can go faster forward. And there are so many companies who do good things, and if they would work together in a network, they would go faster forward. But because we don't trust each other, we don't like the others to have success or something, there's something why it's not practiced. I mean, we know this is the theory and it could work, but I think that if we really would like to be as close to the customer's demand as we could be. The customers are look to ourselves. We are also demanding. We want everything immediately, information on hand, etc. And then that's where you have to come to let's say a kind of an organization where you can say we can offer everything, but not from one hand. But it seems for the customer that's only one portal you go to, and then you have all the information. So and that's also more sustainable, I think, for the long run. Yeah. But
Absolutely.
it's a very interesting subject. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and kind of moving a step forward as we are discussing, it's and as you were stating, it's all about trust, and trust is related with the number 2 ingredients to scale a successful company, which is a world-class team. And let's also introduce here the element of culture, because I think it's really relevant. So having in consideration what we discussed also in the beginning, that we have an environment, an external environment that is always changing, and an internal environment that is also changing as well. Yes. So what are some of your tips to recruit and to retain the best talent on your teams, and how to build the best teams?
Yeah, well, I think that the best team is a team which is complementary to each other. And you don't want to have the same people who are like yourself, for example. So if you recruit, I think you must not recruit and compromise. I have to experience myself, and it was a mistake for me, that I compromised myself in recruiting, let's say, the second choice, because the first one, Nick said, he said, or he or she said, okay, I don't do it. So I took the second one. But that was a compromise with myself, and it didn't work. So from that, I learned I will never compromise. When I doubt, I don't do it. And I'm looking more to what people experienced or did in their lives than really the papers they have on hand. So I did this study and have my diploma or something. That's great. You absolved it, or you have a degree in something. But it's also about what did you do with your life so far? And did you take risks? How did you resolve problems? Did you step into opportunities? Did you go out of your comfort zone? Also the personality itself, and how to retain. I think that you can only retain people if you keep challenging them, and if, as I said, if they like what they do. So, and it's also very important that you give them also not only a task, but also the responsibility, and you empower them also to do that task, to execute. And yes, they will make mistakes, of course, as I make mistakes. But I think that you only can commit people if you can really empower them to do what they have to do, and to make decisions. And it's also, I think, better for the organization and for the customer, because you become more agile. I hate it when, for example, I cannot take a decision, and of course I have my limits, but I need to take my decisions when I can, and while I'm at the customer, and that the customer knows this guy, he has a mandate, so we can negotiate, so we can decide. And it is also for the people I work with, and the people they have their responsibilities, and then you can retain them, and of course give them also facilitate them with educational opportunities. So let them develop themselves within, of course, the environment of the company in the direction they would like to be developed, and try to match that with your own organizational opportunities when they are there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah,
I like it a lot, and I think that one of the main bottlenecks of growth and scale are really those kind of transitions from individual contributors to managers, and from managers to leaders. So especially, and I think that all of us have been living this in a moment or another, when we are top performers at in a specific area, it becomes more difficult to delegate, because we have that sensation that we can do that quicker, better, and we would like to be on the field doing things. And I think that it's important to be on the field and to lead by example, and to be able also to show to our people that we are there to help them. But at the same time, we also need to have the courage to let them learn by doing, and make their own mistakes, and being there, not judging there, and kind of getting pissed off because we knew how to do that, and now we have a problem to solve with the customer. But this is very counterintuitive, especially for high performance. If we are leading an area, and I have this opportunity to lead, imagine marketing or sales or finance, and this is one of the functional areas that you don't have a great command of. You know that you need to have the best under you, because they will tell you what to do, because you don't know about that. So it's all about leadership, right? Yeah. But when you are a high performer, when you know everything about the area you are leading and about the company, this becomes a little bit more difficult. So do you have any trick for the leaders who want to get better at delegation and let's say delegation, because recruitment you have already talked about?
Yeah. Well, of course, I struggled with this myself also, with delegating things, and it's a trap where you are going into. Once I read a very nice book, and I never will forget the fact that that an employee comes into your room or comes to you, and he says, I have a problem, and he shares this problem with you, and then you make the mistake that you say, okay, well, think about it. It's a big mistake. But because somebody comes with a problem, you ask him, do we have a solution? No. Okay, then come back when you have at least two solutions. Then we can talk about those two options to solve the problem, and we will decide. So get them to think, and not, that's the one thing. And it's also, a delegation is also about trust. I mean, that's the only way you can do it, that you trust the people you empower. And of course, as I said, that some things may go wrong, but if I would do everything myself, I couldn't be there where I am now. And in order to be here, I have to give that trust to my people, that they can take those decisions without me. And they know they are in a safe environment where they also may make mistakes. And I think that's very important. And it's hard, because if I would do it myself, I would do it probably faster, without mistakes, or I can do it better. Of course, this is not what it is, because it's so arrogant. I mean, and often I'm really positively surprised by the people I may lead, that they come with far better solutions than I would ever think of, and that's why, and that's what makes me happy, because then I know I have a great team, and that's So I think that's very important. That gives them the trust and also make them feel safe. Of course, you advise them and let them go loose. It's
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something great what you just said, because I think it's also related with the coach that we have in ourselves as leaders. So that's one of the skills that we need to have a command of, how to coach people. And a lot of times people come to us because they are not able to see the solution by themselves. So they are desperately looking for a solution and looking for help. So it can be very hard for ourselves to kind of say, look, I trust that you are able to get at least to two possible solutions, as you said, to that problem. I know that you are capable of that, and face that kind of negative emotions on ourselves that we are.
Yeah. And of course, you can consult them in a direction. So you can say, okay, did you think about that? Did you share it with that guy, or did you? We had something like that in the past. Look how it solved. So you can give them a kind of direction. But just come back if you have minimum two kind of solutions.
Exactly.
So, and then we will talk again. Yeah, I think that's very important.
And I would like to highlight the leaders that are listening as what you just said is really avoiding the temptation of solving the problem straight away and educating that person and supporting that person, trusting that person, that person has the solution. And I think that sometimes it's again on us, on our responsibility. So if that person feels that we don't trust them, that we think that they are not capable of, possibly this will be so infectious that person will not be able to do it.
You will cultivate a culture where they think that you know everything and they don't know it, and they can't solve problems. I mean, I think that if you do it the way I described, that they become more sure, more secure from themselves, and they know they can also solve problems. And and I think it's not the problem to make yourself also as a manager vulnerable, to say, I don't know that. I didn't have the experience before. So we have to go that way together to have this experience for the first time. For me, it's like blue ocean. And for example, this is what we are in at the moment with this pandemic crisis. A lot of things which come onto your path in the past, it's just, we never experienced it. And this is also what I say to my team. Listen, I don't have the solution. Please help me, and let's find this together, how we can cope with this the best way we can.
Absolutely.
Let's think together. Yeah.
And this kind of skills that we are discussing and that we keep working on ourselves are really relevant for our discussion, because if we are able to decentralize the decision-making processes, also the collaboration with Scaleups will move much faster as well, because we'll have people that are not waiting for the decision-making from people above them, and kind of going through all the bureaucracy of large organizations to get a yes, no, or maybe. So which means that maybe they will get an answer in 12 months or or not get an answer.
Oh, never.
So you said it. And so let's come into the third critical ingredient, which is this culture of execution. Is there any best practices, any lessons that you have learned about working culture? And I think that's especially today, as you are leading a very large organization with distributed teams across the world. I think it's also important to share some of your tips to keep everyone on the same page to strengthen culture when you are working from different cities, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not leading a large organization. I'm just responsible for the Netherlands. Let's stay down to earth.
At least you are working.
I'm part of a large organization.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, and culture you cultivate. I mean, of course, you are when you are leading an organization, you are also an example, and also the way you do things, the way you communicate with your people. It's also a part of that culture. These are small things like having dinner together in the cantina during lunchtime, or just have a walk together outside or whatever. And it's also, I think, of course, you can make and break a culture, but you need people in your organization, let's say, who are living the culture that you want to have. And for example, if you want to have a culture where people can speak up, and it's okay to share opinions and to be as clear as you can with all respect, in order to be to go forward and to be constructive. And I think that's very important for a company, so that you make them feel okay with giving criticism about the things you do, for example, but from their own point of view, because everybody has his own point of view, his own thinking frame, and how we reflect. And I think that it's very important that you have a culture where people can just speak up and come to you, to anybody, to question things. Of course, you have to have an answer, but I think that's important. Yeah.
I like it a lot, and especially in times of temptation, in times of crisis, to kind of being open to be criticized. It shows again huge strength from the leader, right? And staying calm under that criticism.
Yeah,
and
I didn't say it's easy.
Fall apart, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't say it's easy. What is key is communication, I think.
Exactly.
And that sometimes, you write something to your organization, and I take 2 days to write it. It just goes in my head, and I try to read it from the point of view from somebody else. And sometimes, and even read somebody who's outside the organization, doesn't know anything. So, do you understand what I'm writing here? Yeah. So. It's so important. Communication is key in everything you do, and especially in this time where we are often on distance. Yeah, I mean, we do not have live meetings anymore with the team. So this is the way we communicate over video, and then it's so important that you, and also to your customers, of course, that you can keep close to your customers, and you're not going in your own bubble. Just doing mails and answering and being reactive. It's challenging, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
And something that I saw happening very often is really even the most how can I say it? Something very surprising, which is everyone in the team saying exactly the same thing in different ways and arguing with each other. And they are all saying exactly the same thing, which is really a problem of communication. And sometimes it's not even the problem of communication, is the need to be heard, to be understood. So that's really curious. Okay, so we came to the last question of the show, but I feel that we would have so much more time and so much more lessons to share with our audience today, which is if you'd have the opportunity to meet Peter Peak, your younger self, several years ago in the beginning of your journey, or in the beginning of your journey at IMI, as you wish, what advice would you offer to your younger self?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Well, let's say what I learned over the period of my whole career is that what is very important: think before you act. I was somebody who was really more a doer than a thinker, and I made my mistakes by doing that. So think before you act. Consult others in doing that. Also share with others. As I said before, try to share in order to be able to multiply. And don't keep the problem if you are thinking about something. Share that with people. First of all, if you talk about it with colleagues or somebody outside your organization, it's already good for your own well-being, of course, to share it, your doubts, but also within your organization. Just share it, and then you will get feedback, and then you make others not part of the problem, but part of the solution, and they know where you're at. So what I learned also, and this I learned in IMI to do, and it's very, I think it's very valuable. Before you start a meeting with people, you ask them to do a check-in. So how are you today? So you know that from everyone in that meeting present, how his feeling is today, just a genuine feeling. So you also can, if they react or you react on something, they know how you feel. So if you react in a kind of way, they know, oh yeah, he reacts like that because he had a worse night's sleep or something, or he's struggling with something else. So but anyway, I think that the most important thing is think before you act, consult others, and share in order to multiply, to grow together. Yeah.
Love that very specific tip. Usually I suggest to start the weeklies, as you were saying, with the one word opening, or or to close the meetings with the one word closing. And it's all related about how do you feel at the beginning of the meeting, at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Which is also helps at the end of the meeting to feel so people feel fulfilled because this meeting was really productive. It made me feel well. Yeah. I think that's a great tip that you are sharing with the audience again. Peter, thanks so much for making the time. I know that you are very, very busy, and you are still committed to be with us to share your experience. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike, for the opportunity, and I hope it can help some people. Okay. It's a pleasure to do it.
Likewise. Okay. And to our community, thanks for being there. We keep bringing you the best of the best to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. This is a special episode of the Breakthrough Engineering season with our partner, IMI Hydronic Engineering. See you soon and keep scaling.